Hey guys, today it is not Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. In fact, today it is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. So, on that note, folks, even though it is 2 days late, and I know that Sunday was 2 days ago, even though it's extremely late, it is time for us to round up once again. So on that note, folks, welcome to yet another episode of Rockzilla's Weekly Roundup, even though I am 2 days late getting around to this video tonight. So, for anybody who has never watched any of the Weekly Roundup videos I've done up to this point, and if this is the very first Weekly Roundup video you've ever seen or are about to watch for the first time, as I stated in my Weekly Roundup video that I made not a week ago, but 9 days ago as of this video, I stated in that video for the next few weeks or so, I will explain at the beginning of every Weekly Roundup video that these videos are to be treated for the most part as podcast style videos where I just put my camera down and hit record and start talking, where so far in every Weekly Roundup video that I've done, there has literally been nothing to see. No visual elements in these videos, just me talking about jerseys, logos, and uniforms, and sometimes talking about other topics, such as the NHL All-Star Game as an example. So, this is what I use as an opportunity to talk about other things besides jerseys, logos, and uniforms once in a while. So, what I do is I do usually discuss other topics on top of just my usual bread and butter, which is jerseys, logos, and uniforms, and hockey and football. So, and baseball too. But anyways, you guys, I wanted to mention that. So, this video is 2 days late. So I want to get into that first. And I want to start by acknowledging those of you who commented some things for me to talk about in the Weekly Roundup video that I'm filming now. Sorry. I want to thank Windy City Hockey, I want to thank Orbital, and Sean, I want to thank you as well for listing out your suggestions for things that I could discuss in this week's Weekly Roundup video, which is coming to you today on Tuesday instead of Sunday as per usual. So, sorry, I got some water in the wrong, down the wrong pipe. There we go. That's better. But anyways, what I wanted to say is that even though this video will be 2 days late, the good news is that if I do actually go back to do my next Weekly Roundup video on time, that means that the next Roundup video is only 5 days away instead of 7. So, I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest. At least I'm trying to find a positive out of this. So, regarding the situation as to why I'm 2 days late, I tried filming this Weekly Roundup video on Sunday, and I just was not happy with what I was producing. And on top of that, I had multiple interruptions. So that screwed me up. And then Sunday night, I had something come up, and I was busy, and then I had something else that I wanted to take care of, and I got that done. And then on top of that, yesterday, for being an off day for me from work, I was actually a lot busier than I usually am. I had a fair bit of stuff on my plate, and unfortunately, there was more on my plate than I had hoped. So obviously, I wasn't going to have much time to film a video, so that's why now that I'm home from work, I think it's only now that I'm getting to the point where I can finally be a little bit more consistent with videos again. But the past couple of weeks have been rather busy for me, so if you're finding that there's been a lack of videos on the channel lately, that's been why. But hey, that's one thing that makes me grateful about these weekly roundups, is that at least on average in this month of February 2020, I have been still averaging about one video a week, which I would rather have a video every week than nothing at all. So, for anybody wondering, the past 2 days I've been busy, and I also have not been a fan of the videos or the attempts at making this that I've tried so far, plus I've had interruptions, which does not help at all. It's been a pain in the ass, if you ask me. But anyways, one more thing I do want to mention is that, actually two, I lied. Number one, for anybody new, my weekly roundup podcasts are usually around a half an hour to 35 minutes in length on average. And number two, there will be the odd exceptions to the podcast format where the only times hang on. So here's how that'll work. For the most part, these will be treated as podcast-style videos like this, where it's a black screen and there's literally nothing to see and just something to listen to, aka me talking. Now, the only exceptions to the rule will be either A, if I state specifically that there will be a visual element at some point in the video, or B, if you see a video start out like this where there's actually something to see. So for anybody listening to this going, hey, wait, what's Rockzilla showing? Well, I'm just showing you a reflection of my table that I've got my phone sitting on. Just to show you that if a video starts out with a visual element, there'll be something to see, or if I state, or A, option A, if I state specifically that there will be a visual element in the video. So, speaking of visual elements in the videos, this will be the first weekly roundup video that will have a visual element later on in the video. And I am looking forward to quickly discussing that with you guys later on. And if I don't do it right away, please do remind me to add to the description of this video the time of the video where I start to show a visual element. I'm going to do my best to remember myself, but if I don't, please remind me. I would appreciate it. Alright, so I want to try and start getting into the actual stuff I want to talk about by the 10-minute point of this video. So I want to discuss an error that I made in last week's weekly roundup video. So I was talking about Craig Cunningham, who was a former professional hockey player. He had a stint with the Vancouver Giants, even played for a short time with the Boston Bruins, and then I can't remember who he was playing for. I think he was playing for the Tucson Roadrunners, if I'm not mistaken, and then he suffered a cardiac episode, and he unfortunately has had to end his professional hockey career, eh? But with Craig Cunningham, in last week's weekly roundup podcast, I said that he had to have both of his legs amputated because of his cardiac episode. Actually, I was incorrect on that. If I remember reading it correctly, he only had one leg amputated from the knee down. And the reason he had an amputation was not because of the cardiac event itself, but because of an infection that he suffered afterwards as a result of complications from said cardiac episode. So what I have done is I actually went in and I actually went into the YouTube video editor and trimmed out a portion of the video where I talked about Craig Cunningham having to have both of his legs amputated in order to save his life. So I want to say this, that I am sorry for making a major factual error in my weekly roundup video from a week ago regarding Craig Cunningham. I mean, truth is, I'm glad that not too many people have actually watched that video, because once I realized that, oh shoot, I made a major factual error, I did remove a small portion out of the weekly roundup video from last week discussing that about Craig Cunningham, which was actually completely incorrect. So guys, I'm really sorry about that, and moving forward, I will do my best to make sure that from now on, I do a much better job of researching things before I discuss them. Especially when it comes to professional players and their situations or careers or anything to do with them in general. So I am really sorry about making that error. I've been kicking myself about it ever since. I mean, I know that we all make mistakes, but that's an error that I'm not pleased with myself about. And I did remove a small portion out of last week's weekly roundup video, and moving forward, I will do my due diligence going forward to do a better job of making sure that I research things like that, because I don't like making factual errors, especially about why a player had to end his professional playing career. Something like that, when I think about it, that's something I don't like getting wrong, and I think it's in poor taste. I mean, I'm sure most of you will understand that I made a mistake, but I appreciate that, and I appreciate your understanding, but the thing is that I don't want to keep making mistakes like that, so I apologize for that, and I did remove a portion of my weekly roundup video from a week ago as a result of that error. So I just thought I'd formally acknowledge that and apologize for the error on my behalf. So, now that I've discussed that, I want to move on to touch base on Jay Bouwmeester. I hear that he has had a procedure done on his heart, some type of surgical procedure, and I hear that he's still in hospital. And hopefully, now that this procedure is over, hopefully Jay Bouwmeester's heart will be healthy again, and better yet, hopefully the man is going to be able to finally leave hospital. And you know what? As I said in last week's weekly roundup podcast, I would rather see him have to end his professional playing career than see him have a tragic end of his life far too soon. So, hopefully, he's not only going to make a full recovery, I'm also holding on to hope that that guy is going to be able to return to playing for the St. Louis Blues and possibly make a run at a second straight Stanley Cup championship. But after what happened to Rich Peverley of the Dallas Stars back in around, I believe, 2013 or 2014, as a result of the cardiac episode that he sadly suffered, Rich Peverley had to retire from playing professional hockey, and he retired from the NHL. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I know I said this last week, but I would honestly not be the least bit surprised if we find that Jay Bouwmeester has to call it quits and face an early retirement from the NHL. But you know what? I would rather him retire from the NHL and be alive and well and hopefully live a long, healthy life than have him tragically die far too young. That is something that he does not deserve, and if he has to retire for his health, then I hope he does, because you know what? It's not worth losing your life over, in my opinion, to play in the NHL. It's, he's had a good career. And the best part is even if he has to retire, he gets to retire, if he has to, as a Stanley Cup champion. And he gets to go out as a winner. I mean, even though this situation is absolutely horrible, you know what? I'm just glad that Jay Bouwmeester is okay. At the end of the day, in my opinion, and I'm sure most of you will agree with me, if not all, that his health is more important than anything to do with hockey. That's for sure. And I'm glad to hear that he's alert and that he's on the road to recovery. Hopefully he makes a full recovery. It would be amazing if he could play professionally again in the NHL for the St. Louis Blues, but you know what? As I said just now, about a minute ago, I mean, after what happened to Rich Peverley and the fact that he had to retire, I would not be the least bit surprised if Jay Bouwmeester will likely have to retire as a result of this cardiac episode as well. And it's a shame, but hey, you know what? The most important thing of all, as far as I'm concerned, is that man's health at the end of the day. That's more important than hockey, as far as I'm concerned. So, hopefully he's going to be out of hospital soon, and hopefully he will make a full recovery. So, speaking of recovery, we're now going to move on to arguably the biggest story of the NHL's 2019-2020 season so far. So, in the game on Saturday between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Toronto Maple Leafs, both James Reimer, I think it was Reimer, and then Peter Mrazek were both injured. So, both Carolina's starting goaltender for that game and their backup, who was Peter Mrazek on Saturday night, were both injured during their game against the Maple Leafs. So, as a result, 42-year-old Zamboni driver David Ayres had to step in, put on a Hurricanes jersey, and netmind and goaltend for the Carolina Hurricanes through the end of the last quarter of the second period and the entirety of the third period. And David Ayres not only was able to get into the game, but I believe he made 18 saves, and the Hurricanes defeated the Maple Leafs 6-3. And under the extraordinarily horrible circumstances that Carolina faced on Saturday night, I must say, am I ever happy for them for the fact that they were able to pull off the victory, and that David Ayres, a 42-year-old Zamboni driver, who I believe also serves as an additional practice goaltender for the Maple Leafs during their practices, he stepped into the game to be the Hurricanes' third-string emergency last-second goaltender, and he netminded and goaltended his way to helping the Hurricanes win that game 6-3. If that's not a story to be happy about, I don't know what is. And the thing with David Ayres is that he was even wearing Maple Leafs equipment. He was wearing, I believe, blue socks, and he was wearing the Leafs blue pants shells, or blue pants. And the only thing he had on that was anything to do with the Hurricanes was their white jersey. That was it. And good for him. I mean, under those extraordinary circumstances, David Ayres has been serving, I don't know for how long, but I know that David Ayres, Ayres is how you spell his last name. He is a reserve third-string goaltender at the they don't call it the Air Canada Centre anymore. They call it Scotiabank Arena in Toronto now, and they have for 2 or 3 years now. But for the Maple Leafs home games, David Ayres has been serving as an emergency third-string backup goaltender in case either an away team or the Maple Leafs have both of their starting and backup goaltenders injured in a game. So, good for him, good for the Hurricanes, and David Ayres was the first star of the game, well-deserved, even though he let in a couple of goals early on in his start in the game. Once he got warmed up, once he got going, once he got comfortable, he made 18 saves. And I also hear that he actually had to end his pursuit of a professional career because he had to have a kidney transplant. So the fact that he did make it to the NHL and at least had the opportunity to close out a game for the Hurricanes. I couldn't be happier for the guy. He deserved a chance, and you know what? What a great story. I mean, I can't get that story out of my head right now. When I think of the Maple Leafs or I see the Hurricanes, all I think about is David Ayres and his performance Saturday night. Excuse me. But yeah, Saturday night, he really put on a great performance, and that man deserves a lot of credit. I must say, when I saw that story about David Ayres winning for the Hurricanes as their third-string goaltender in an emergency backup situation, that made my day. It really did. So, speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, what I want to do now is I want to talk about their away uniform a little bit, because with the Hurricanes away uniform, now that I've seen it multiple times now, even though I tip my hat to them for trying something new with the word mark, the diagonal word mark on the front instead of a logo, I gotta be honest, I love the simplicity of the jersey. I also love that the Storm Square striping's not only on their away jersey again, but even a little bit more prominent on the away jersey than the new home jersey they unveiled a couple of seasons ago. But you know what? I'm not a fan of the new away jersey. I think they made it too plain. And the biggest thing for me is that I feel that it has far too much red. If they would have made the Canes word mark black, I think that uniform could have worked. If they made the numbers and letters and kept them black with silver trim like their last away jersey had, and if they made the word mark on the front black instead of red, in my opinion, that jersey would have had a lot more staying power. But what they've produced, do I think it's a terrible uniform? I don't. I think there are much worse jerseys in the NHL right now. Calgary and another team that I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. When I think of teams with bad away uniforms, I honestly don't like the Coyotes' current away jersey. I also can't stand what the Flames still continue to wear. You know, when I look at those two teams, I must say, you know, their away jersey's not the worst in the NHL, but it's definitely not my favorite either. And, you know, there are some bad away jerseys in the NHL still, especially Calgary, now that Colorado has actually made a pretty significant fix to their uniforms. You know, you've got Calgary, and you've also got another team whose away jersey I don't like would definitely be... I just mentioned them. Sorry, guys. I'm drawing a blank right now, but... with some of the teams, you know, I'm actually going to walk over to my computer and get it ready for the visual element that I want to show for the purpose of this week's weekly roundup. But I mean, in terms of teams and bad away jerseys, I mean, Arizona's away jersey I don't care for. Calgary's is the worst in the NHL right now, in my opinion. And Nashville's not really... I love the gold shoulder yoke, but it's too plain. And San Jose, too. But overall, I mean... When I look at Carolina's new away uniform, I'm going to be honest, it's not that great. And I sure as hell believe that Carolina could have certainly done a whole lot better. So, you know what I'll do for the purpose of this video? I'm actually going to take a moment to show you guys a photo of that too, because why not? Here, just bear with me for a moment. So, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because my plan is to eventually do a separate video. Ah, jeez. Dry throat. So, you look at their away uniform here. There's too much red. The word mark should have been black, and I think the letters and numbers on the back and on the arms too, of course, talking about the numbers, should have been black with silver trim like their last away uniforms. And even though I do like how Carolina has kept it simple, and I like how clean the new away jersey design is, I feel it's too plain. And I'm also not a fan of the word mark on the front either. I love the idea of a diagonal word mark on the front, but a nickname on the front, I've never been a fan of that. And I certainly don't miss the Bolts word mark on Tampa's jerseys either. So, I must say it is really disappointing to see that Carolina made such a plain away jersey. Even if the word mark and the numbers and names on the back were in black with silver trim, to me the away jersey that they've got now would have a lot more staying power. Even with the Canes nickname on the front instead of the word Hurricanes or Carolina on that jersey in a diagonal script. So that sucks. I mean, do I think that this jersey will be fine for the next few seasons? Yes, I do. I think it could even stick around for another 4 seasons, and I would be okay with that. But do I want Carolina to keep that uniform around for long? No, I don't. And another thing, too, it's not going to stick around. And it's a jersey I'm not going to miss once they finally realize that they made a bad choice. It's not that good. I don't like it at all. I like the design of the jersey. I love that the storm squares are on the away jersey again, but you know what? I don't know why they couldn't have even just added the storm squares to the waist striping of their away jersey that they had last season, that they retired for this new one. To me, that was a much better jersey. I mean, did it have the storm square striping? No. But at least it had a design that was different, and at least it had their logo on it. And it wasn't super plain. I didn't even mind the overlapping shoulder yoke that absorbed the players' names inside it. I actually thought that those jerseys were really good looking overall, and I think they should have just added the storm squares inside the waist striping of those jerseys and left them alone. I mean, I'm really disappointed about how Tom Dundon complained about them, yet brings in these ultra boring new away uniforms with a boring red script on them, where the jersey has too much red and not enough black. I really do think they crapped the bed on their new away jersey. Do I think it's good? It's okay. I would give it about a 2.5 out of 5. It's a pass, but it's definitely not as good as what it replaced. At least that's my opinion, and I don't expect everyone to agree with me. So, moving on to the next topic, the Kings throwback uniform. This is the one visual element that I really wanted to include. I added the Hurricanes one. So, there we go. This is what they looked like on Saturday night. And I gotta say, now that is a decent looking uniform. I don't know about you guys, but this should replace the Kings' current home and away jerseys as far as I'm concerned, with the matching black jersey to go with this one, of course. They even got the Addy Zero collar looking good on this design. Not often we can say that about Addy Zero collars, but I do feel that the Kings kicked ass with this Adidas redesign of the 90s throwback. And I have a feeling that this is not the only time we're going to see this jersey and uniform. I have been hearing, I know that someone from the Los Angeles Kings did mention that they're planning on adding the new updated logo with the extra silver outline to their home and away jerseys and putting it on them for next year, because of the fact that they've decided to actually update their main primary logo to have the extra silver outline like their gray third jersey has. But I'm hoping they do more than a quick logo update to their uniforms. I actually hope they say screw it and they switch to this full time, because this to me is the best black, white, silver era Kings uniform in that team's history by far. I love the look of it. It's a very nice, simple jersey. It's even got a bit of a distinct look to it as well. And I do feel that the Kings did a really great thing bringing it back. And I hope that they're going to wear it more often going forward. Now, sorry guys, I just saw a fire truck going up my street, or going down my street rather. So, wanted to cover that. I also want to thank Windy City Hockey for mentioning, sorry about David Ayres. So, the next thing I want to talk about is about the throwback program, and Orbital. I want to acknowledge you and thank you for the suggestion. So, regarding that, with the throwback program being considered in the NHL, I feel like they've already been doing it anyway. I think the way it is now is good the way it is. I mean, you've got teams like the Blues wearing their 90s throwback on top of a 67 throwback for 3 games this season. You've got the Kings wearing their 90s throwback on top of their third jersey, and those hideous Stadium Series uniforms on top of all of that. You've got the Flames wearing their 80s throwbacks, both the red and white ones this year. You've got the Canucks wearing their 90s throwbacks on top of their new 1970s inspired third jersey. I mean, I think the system the way it is fine. I mean, do I think in some cases it would be okay if a team could wear a throwback more? Well, I guess. It depends on the uniform. I mean, but you see teams like Arizona wearing a third jersey throwback already. And, you know, another thing too, I mean, you look at the teams across the NHL, across the board. I mean, Chicago wears the 2019 Winter Classic sweater, or they've been wearing it again this season for 4 games. You know, they've got a throwback. I mean, you've got the Kings wearing the 90s throwback on top of a third jersey and an outdoor jersey. You've got the Devils wearing their white throwbacks for 4 games this season, and they wore it for multiple games last season as well. Beautiful uniform. I'm glad they brought it back. You've got Toronto wearing their St. Pat's jerseys for 2 games again this season. You've got the you've also got the Jets for the 2nd year in a row wearing a Heritage Classic uniform. Last season, the Jets actually brought their white Winter Classic jersey from 2016 back in an Natty Zero jersey cut and wore it for a couple games last season. And now that they wore the navy blue version for the outdoor game in Saskatchewan against Calgary back in October, they've now been wearing that this season on top of their third jersey. So I feel like teams are already wearing throwbacks already this year. So, you know, Orbital, do I think an official program would be okay? Sure. But I think they're already basically doing a throwback type thing unofficially anyway. I mean, if you even look at the Washington Capitals, they wear a throwback third jersey. I love that uniform, to be honest. But, you know, even if they wanted to bring in a new navy blue third jersey, for example, which I agree with people, it would be great to finally see a jersey with the Weagle on the front. They could even still wear that red throwback for 4 games on top of that third jersey. So I feel like there's already kind of an unofficial program already. And I don't really want to see it get changed too much. I mean, am I a fan of seeing teams like San Jose and Tampa Bay adding throwbacks? Absolutely. But do I think we need to see teams wear throwbacks like 7 times a year and then an alternate for 8 other games? I don't know. I think 4 or 5 games is plenty with the third jersey on top of that and an outdoor game jersey on top of all that too, like the Kings, if the team is in that situation too. So thanks for the suggestion for talking about that, Orbital. Now, in terms of my thoughts on the Winter Classic and Stadium Series matchups for next year, Orbital, these are a couple more things that he asked me to talk about, so thanks again. So, the Minnesota Wild, they're playing the Blues. That's the team I actually wanted them to be matched up against, because I think the Blues wearing a white 67 throwback against a Minnesota North Stars throwback would be absolutely amazing. But even if the Wild play it safe and do a faux back design instead, I still think next season's Winter Classic is going to be a gorgeous outdoor game. I know Minnesota's going to come up with something good, even if it's not a North Stars throwback, but I think they should do a North Stars throwback, and they should not play it safe. They should damn well do it. It's about time. I think there's a big nostalgic longing for that uniform to make a comeback in some way, state, or shape or form. And if the Hurricanes can wear Whalers throwbacks, why can't Minnesota wear a North Stars throwback? I mean, even look at the Dallas Stars Winter Classic sweater. It was a beautiful homage to the Dallas Texans who played in the 1940s. So they were paying homage to Dallas's hockey history, and rightfully so. You know, I still think it is so damn cool that Dallas has hockey history going as far back as the 40s. If that isn't something that is a really cool historical piece of hockey history to learn about, I don't know what is. Finding out that Dallas had hockey history and had ice hockey in the 1940s, that's so cool. And the fact they paid homage to an old team from the 40s, the Dallas Texans, what a great way to pay homage to hockey history in Dallas. I'd rather see the Stars do something like that than a North Stars throwback any day. I want the Wild to do a North Stars throwback, not the Stars. So, also, in terms of the Stadium Series game next season, Orbital, I want the Hurricanes to play the Lightning. I want to see a battle of the Storms. I think they could do something super cool with the outdoor jerseys, even though I think Adidas will find a way to crap the bed anyway. But, sorry to be cynical and pessimistic, but which is a fancy word for being negative, but I do want to see the Hurricanes play the Lightning. I think that would be a cool jersey matchup if Adidas actually does it right, which they certainly crapped the bed this year in my biased opinion. And on top of that, I would also love to see Tampa Bay because it would give 2 new cities, that would get 2 new cities into the outdoor program. It's about time that more teams get a chance to have their first outdoor games in franchise histories. It's time. I'm ecstatic about Carolina hosting a game finally. It's time to get another team in there that's new and get some more new blood in so that everybody gets a chance at the outdoor events. It's time. I'm sick of Chicago every year. I'm sick of Pittsburgh. I am sick and tired of the same few teams. It's time for a change. It's time for some new blood. That's something that I really liked about Nashville and Dallas in the Winter Classic this year. 2 new teams. Give everybody a chance. It's long overdue. So finally, to wrap up this video, I don't want to go on for too much longer because my phone's going to run out of storage because I'm using my old phone for this video today. But the XFL uniforms, there's actually been some uniforms in the XFL that I think are better than some of the new NFL redesigns in recent years. I thought the New York Guardians gray away uniform the other day was awesome. I was really impressed with how nice it looked. Another team that's actually got decent uniforms, the St. Louis Battlehawks. And on top of that as well, another team whose uniforms that I really like are the DC Defenders. They're simple, and I even like their logo. They did a really good job. The only thing I hate is the undersized nameplates on the jerseys. That is a real nitpick of mine, and I think they look really bad. So I hope that their apparel company that makes their jerseys for the XFL will get that fixed for next year. But also to my one subscriber, Sean, thank you for the whole XFL idea. So that's why I thought I'd add in the XFL uniforms for this weekly roundup. But also, Sean, I will be making a separate XFL video for you. I really want to acknowledge you and appreciate the fact that, and thank you and say that I appreciate your idea. I will make it, hopefully, maybe even my next video, and I'll try and get it done as soon as I can. But that's a video that I've actually been contemplating for the past few weeks, to be honest. So thanks for the suggestion. You've definitely made this a case of where there's smoke, there's fire. So expect that video hopefully this week. But anyways, you guys, this is definitely longer than I was planning, but I think it was worth it. And sorry for being 2 days late. I hope that if you have actually stuck around for the entire duration of this podcast, I hope you've enjoyed it. And finally, I got this video done. Couldn't be happier. Sorry for being 2 days late. Sorry for it being so long. But I hope that if you have watched it from start to finish, well, I mean, listen to it. You know what I mean. I hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed it. And until my next weekly roundup, which will hopefully be on time this week, unlike today's weekly roundup, until then, and of course until my next video, as always, you guys, take care, and of course, as usual, folks, bye for now.